I want to talk to you a bit about the Talenton Impact Fund. When we built the Talenton Impact Fund, we created it in a relatively unique way. And that is, we created it as an evergreen fund, which means that you can deploy capital into it and redeem your capital from it on a quarterly basis. And that is a very unique structure. So I'm going to say there are very few funds in Africa. One thing people talk about equity funds in Africa or impact funds in Africa is how are you going to get exits? Well, one of the things that we've done is we've baked in the possibility of exit for all of our investors. Having put that strategy in, that led us to a very important operational strategy, and that is it's predominantly a debt fund, because we know we need to provide you liquidity. So we're about 70-30 from a debt to equity ratio. But actually there's a really key feature of that is super important for our client base. We frequently meet companies, and you could probably guess some of the companies around the table that look like this, where the founders actually have no interest in exiting their company. But those companies are no less potential to achieve our mission than a company that wants to go and exit. So we felt that the debt-based facility was super important for that sort of company. Many of those companies very much fill that missing middle profile, unable to access private equity capital because they're not planning to exit, and actually struggling to access debt capital because the local banks very much prioritise the very large companies. They actually don't have particularly large amounts of liquidity themselves. Secondly, we continue to feel that it's important that we provide this catalytic capital, the $1 to $3 million range. We think that's actually a tremendous space. There's a lot of companies, the microfinance space that Peter mentioned, is increasingly getting up to the sort of hundreds, thousands of dollars and sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars, but there's very, very few players in that sort of $1 to $3 million space, and we think that catalytic capital is really important. It remains a key strategy of ours. Now, we're going to make space in a minute to talk about the Momentum Fund, but I want to just reinforce that statement I made at the beginning. The Talenton Impact Fund will remain the critical driver of our mission. And we will continue to go and source companies that need that catalytic investment, and we will continue to offer you the opportunity to redeem your capital after a lock-up period. So for many of you, the Talenton Impact Fund will continue to be the best option for you as you consider your investment. You may value that liquidity option, and you may really just like that sort of capital that we're providing into that space.
Well, I have a huge honor of kind of announcing the Momentum Fund. We went through a lot of back and forth on names for a good month probably, and landed on Momentum Fund because it really captures the essence of what this fund is intending to do. Ultimately, it's a mission fulfillment for us. It's really going and hitting the gas pedal on what we originally set up to do, and that's creating more job opportunities, bringing hope, capital H, to more people. We call these societal level impact businesses or regional businesses, and for some of them global. So this is a demand pull. This is like us being very market driven, saying we're seeing a demand for larger types of investments, say 3 to 5 million of equity, something like that per company. And it's really about taking the best of our current portfolio as a starting point. We know these companies extremely well. Ultimate form of due diligence is a 3-4 year relationship. We trust them, and we know that in the near future that they will need that equity injection to really go from, say, 10 million in sales to 50 million in sales. And we have investors who are asking about that. It won't be for all investors. I totally affirm what Harry said. But we have a class of investors that are saying, we want to participate in that. We'd like to be a part of that. Why is the Momentum Fund really important? Light into darkness on a national scale and sometimes a global scale. Natural extension of the engine we've built. You know, we finally have a regional team that we trust and really love. It's so much easier to do due diligence when you're in the time zone, same time zone, and to do post-investment support when you're in the same culture. You know, Kenyans serving Kenyans. We've passed on some large investments that didn't fit the debt fund model. ultimately there's trends. There's trends that fit the Momentum Fund. But as the world goes to 9 billion, Africa has 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. 60%. So to feed the world, we're going to need African agriculture. Most of all, what Africa has that's fully tapped is talent. And we're seeing that on steroids. We're seeing people that are underemployed because the job of their skill level and giftedness and education just isn't there. And these are the kind of businesses that can hire engineers, accountants, CFOs. They can hire talented people and give them a job up to their giftedness. So again, this is all part of the Momentum Fund vision. You know, we're looking at a 10-year commitment most likely. And you know, some people have asked about exits, you know, and it's a good question because the history of investing in equity in Africa has been tough to get out. But here's what's changing. Every top 200 company in the world has to have an Africa strategy now, and you can't ignore it. You know, it's going to be 2 billion people by 2039, and all of those resources are there. And so, number one, strategic interest from strategic buyers is absolutely coming and already happening. Second of all, these are high growth markets. So when you do a financial model, you start with at least GDP. If you're not growing with GDP, you're actually shrinking. So 10 to 20 to 30% growth should be expected. There's more and more funds that are looking for opportunities in the 10 to $20 million investment size. They view that as a safer bet. We want to help these companies get to where they're actively considered by those private equity funds. So Momentum will help us get them to where there's strategic interest, private equity interest, and we can really help them become, again, regional and global players. Faith being a core part of what we do with every single investment. Investing heavily in the leaders and the management team to help them grow in Christ, to become character-driven leaders. So when we exit, we want to leave behind faithful, character-driven, values-driven leaders and management teams. And when you do that with these kind of larger companies, imagine the impact it'll have in those societies.